Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Mortgage Musketeer, where today we're going to be talking about managing your credit. So I get this all the time where people are trying to game the system or manage their credit, or they're really confused about how to actually build their credit. Revolving accounts, so your credit card balances, are key. So the idea is to manage that account, keep it below 30%. The sweet spot is supposed to be somewhere between 5 and 10%. Okay, but you can't game the system unless you understand it. So I hear people all the time who pay off their credit card and then they turn right around and then they charge it up so that it shows that they're using it, and then they pay it off at the end of every billing cycle. Okay, well, you have to understand there are two dates that are important and critical to a credit card. There's the day that is due. Never miss a payment. There's no such thing as a little late. Make sure you have on-time payments every month, okay? And then the second date is whenever the credit card decides to report to the credit bureaus. Those are two completely unrelated dates. They might sync, they might be 2 weeks apart. One might be at the end of the month, the other at the beginning. They are unrelated. And you have to understand that. So I have people all the time who panic about why their credit score is going down when they were trying to manage their credit or try to raise their score. And the reason is because they pay off their credit card, which is great, and then they turn around and they charge up the credit card to show that you're using it, and now they've got a high balance when it actually reports to the credit bureau. All right? So you have to understand there are two separate dates that you have to manage if you're going to manage it. But you don't need to game it like that. A credit card is just a tool, okay? If you're trying to buy something and you're trying to max out your score, then you want to keep that utilization as low as humanly possible, okay? If you are going to then try and pay it off, that's cool. But if you're trying to raise your credit score, the idea is just to keep it low, all right? Don't max it out. It does not help you. There's nothing. It's nothing more than an algorithm. Okay, and the algorithm is simply looking at what number is reported. Because that's the flip side of that. When I pull credit, I have people all the time where I'll say, hey, this is what it is. This is the balance on there. And like, oh, I paid that down. Okay, that's great. But this is a snapshot in time from when the credit card company reported to the credit bureau. That's why there's a difference. And you have to understand that. Now, the way that you can manage that if you really want to is your credit monitoring apps, which again are always wrong on the score. Ignore the score. I think it's false advertisement. I think it's complete BS, but that's another story. The bottom line is ignore the score. But credit monitoring companies are good at monitoring credit. They are very useful. So it gives you all the information you need in order to manage that credit card. So if you look at each one of those, like if you have like a Chase card, okay, like take Credit Karma for instance. If you have a Chase card, then underneath that line where it shows you what your balance is on Credit Karma, there's a date, and that date is the last reported date. That's when the credit companies report to the credit bureau. Now, can you assume that next month they're going to report on the same date? No, because they don't. Sometimes a little before, sometimes a little after. It's somewhere in that range, okay? But it is a separate date from when that credit card bill is due. And that's how you can see, if you really wanted to technically manage your balance, you can look and see what is your credit card balance before that reporting date. And that is what's going to show up on your credit report. And what shows up in your credit report is what's going to impact your score. All right? That's how you look at the two different ones. My advice is to not over leverage yourself at any time. Keep your credit balances low. Credit cards are a tool. They are useful. If you need to buy something, that is what they're there for. Okay, but you have to have that budgeted. You can't just buy stuff and then try and pay it off. That's where people get really messed up by credit. As they start credit, they need this or they need that, and they just charge it because they want it now. Okay, do you have the ability to budget for it? And if you are going to budget for it, that means the minute that you spend that money, that money's allocated in the future to pay it off. You can't spend more money. Otherwise, it just builds and builds and builds, and you find yourself in a credit hole, and you can't get out of it. Credit is not scary. Credit is tactical, not emotional. Remember these things. You can manage your credit, you can manage your credit cards, and you can leverage it for the tools that they are. All right, hope this helps. Until next time, it's all for one and one for all.